I'm assuming there's a human at the end of the leash.
I'm vlogging! It took me that long. Right outside. What's the point?
Sup tubers, and welcome back to my channel. This week we are hopping back into the world of Harry Potter to look at what changed within the world when I added Heidi Lily Potter. I put her through so much, but she made it through to the end, and one, I'm extremely proud of her for that. Two, I'm extremely happy I made it through to her end. Because, let's face it, if anyone wasn't going to make it to the end, it was me. If I had to explain Harry Potter one more time, I will snap. So I will link Heidi's original vlog and video down in the description below so you can go look at those, and I get to keep my sanity. Well, what little sanity I have left. There are a number of changes that I added, or that I made by adding Heidi into the Harry Potter world, but we're going to focus on the main two first. The first one is how Harry was raised. As we all know, in the books and the movies, he's raised by his mother's sister, her husband Vernon, and their son, and with their son Dudley. They are also all muggles and hate everything to do with magic. Not the best environment for a young wizard to be raised in, but it's what Harry was stuck with. In Heidi, however, Harry is raised in a safe, loving, magical environment under the guiding hand of his godfather Sirius Black and his surrogate aunt and uncle Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks Lupin. In order to achieve this plan of mine, which was to have Harry and Heidi raised by those their parents considered family, I futzed with a few things, mainly Tonks' age. I closed the gap between her and Remus to only a couple of years. I have nothing against age gaps. It's just how I worked it so I could get what I wanted. So I could achieve what I wanted, I should say. And I also made it that at the time that Wormtail betrays James and Lily, Sirius has witnesses, he has alibis, he's got people with him when all of this stuff happens that inevitably led to him being thrown in Azkaban because, one, he didn't get a trial, and two, no one was with him, so they couldn't corroborate his story. Because I changed these things, Harry and Heidi were able to be raised in a loving, nurturing environment, as I said. Not to say that things didn't suck a lot, because they did. But he still had more to fall back on than he did in the books and the movies. The second major change, and a reoccurring theme with all my alternate universe changes videos, is obviously the character I added themselves. So for this, in this case, it's Heidi. And she is obviously a major change because I'm adding in another character. I'm giving Harry a sibling. Adding Heidi adds something a lot of characters don't. She's that voice in the back of Harry's head that he can't always ignore. She's his moral compass almost. Not to say that she doesn't need the same thing, because that's actually what they end up being for each other. They play off of each other. The two almost become a checks and balance system for each other. And there's always going to be one time or another when one of them needs something or needs to be grounded, and the other one will be there to do it. Whether it's Harry and his rivalry with Draco, or it's Heidi and her temper, at some point they're always going to need each other. In the books and the movies, Harry had a habit of trying to take things on himself, not wanting to put his friends in danger. Harry and Ron and Hermione obviously didn't always let him do this, but there were times when he was able to get away with it, and they had no choice in the matter. Heidi, on the other hand, she's a younger sibling. If there's anyone who can dog you and make you take someone along, it is a younger sibling. Trust me. Not only am I one, but I have a couple, and trust me, there's nothing like a younger sibling to make you do things you didn't want to do. Whereas Ron and Hermione, like I said, they understand that Harry wants to do some of these things alone. They don't want him to, but they understand that he's going to. With Heidi, she understands that. She understands why he wants to do it alone, but with everything she's lost in her short life, she's not going to let him. There is nothing he can say or do that will make her stay behind, not be by his side every second of the way. Now, I added these changes in for various reasons. We'll go a little bit more in depth into those. Heidi was added because I had a voice in the back of my head yelling at Harry whenever I read the books or watched the movies, and then she took on a life of her own, and Bob's your uncle, you know, I've got a series on my hands. It's just how my life works sometimes. But I decided to have them raised by Sirius, Remus, and Tonks because I wanted them loved. I wanted that stable environment that Harry was always lacking in the books and movies. And I understand him not having that served its purpose, but I felt he could still have some semblance of it while continuing to have as much trouble and as many hardships as was originally intended for him. It just seemed to me like every time Harry got something good, it was taken away from him. And I couldn't do that. I needed him to have something. And part of that was getting him out of Petunia and Vernon's home so that he was in a better environment. Like I said, it doesn't magically make everything better, but when he has his times where he's convinced himself that he's utterly alone, in the back of his mind, he actually knows, you know, he as much as he's convinced his conscious mind, his unconscious mind is telling him, you're not alone. You have people to fall back on. You have people who are going to be there no matter what. As we know, when you change something, you're going to have consequences to deal with and other changes that arise. One of the biggest changes in Heidi's world is character deaths. We'll start off with Sirius, Remus, and Tonks. I always tend to group these three together because they're the guardians of the children and you see them together most often. In book 5, we lose Sirius. No. He falls through the veil in the Ministry of Magic. He's hit by a curse from Bellatrix, and it results in his death. Within Heidi, Sirius lives. He does get seriously injured, leading Harry to believe for a little while that his godfather is dead, and that makes his snap decision to run after Bellatrix and eventually face Voldemort. But he does live. I could not, in good conscience, kill Sirius after the world I'd built for Harry and Heidi. Just losing him would have sent them into an even worse tailspin than what you had in the books and the movies. It would have been disastrous. In book 7/movie 8, we lose Remus and Tonks. Remus to Dolohov and Tonks to Bellatrix. It isn't seen on screen or in the pages, thank gods, but Harry does see their bodies afterwards. I always knew if I rewrote the books for a character, I'd be changing at least one of their deaths because they just had a son, they were happy, and I hate the idea of orphans. I know JK did it to specifically point out that war does leave orphans. I get that. I totally get that. But after their life Remus had, he finally had a woman who loved him no matter what. He had his own child who was going to look up at him and not care that his father was a werewolf. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And given their place in Harry and Heidi's lives, Remus basically became Heidi's father after losing James. As we know, Sirius is basically Harry's. And Tonks is the maternal figure neither of them were ever going to have after they lost Lily. And the idea of taking them away was impossible. The idea of them being able to carry on with their lives without those two huge influences, without those three huge influences in their lives, I couldn't do it. Another major death that I changed is Fred Weasley. As we all know and hate, Fred is killed in the Battle of Hogwarts in the final book/movie, leaving his twin brother George alone for the first time in his life. Now, I've always hated this death. So it breaks my heart in more ways than one to see Fred die, but with Heidi, it would have shattered her. She and Fred had been in a relationship since early in book 5. They went through Umbridge, the Ministry battle, Heidi's turn, being separated during the war, you know, countless near-death experiences. It's just, there were so many things that they had gone through that if she lost Fred, she wouldn't have recovered. Just like we know, George probably never recovered losing Fred. Heidi wouldn't have recovered either. It would have been too much for her. It would have destroyed her. And after all I put her through, I was not taking that away from her. No. Another change caused by adding Heidi was the subplot of Heidi and Snape's friendship. It's stated many times throughout Heidi's stories that she looks exactly like her mother, right down to her hair color. It's got the crazy wildness of her father and brother's hair, but it's the color of Lily's. And Snape sees that right away. He sees his old best friend, whom he lost with a single careless word, in this little girl. Yes, she's the daughter of the man he hated most in the world, but she's also Lily's daughter, and that makes all the difference to Snape. Sorry, I lost my ability to do word and was trying to figure out what I was trying to say. He strives and usually fails to be the best he can for Heidi, trying to regain a bit of what he had with Lily within Heidi. Not romantically, yes, sickos, but in friendship. He misses Lily dearly every single day, and Heidi makes it just a little bit easier to manage. This means when it comes to Harry's suspicions of Snape and the constant fighting with him, there's a rift between the siblings. Heidi doesn't understand why Snape can look past her being James's daughter, but not Harry being his son. She comes to understand it's because of how they look and act, but she hates that her brother can't get along with someone she considers a friend, which is very rare for them because their friendship groups pretty much intertwine and are one, with Snape being the one exception and the second subplot of Ron being the second exception. Our second subplot is Heidi can't stand Ron. Most of the time, the youngest Weasley brother and the youngest Potter hate each other. Some of this comes from my dislike of the character. I can't stand how he treats Harry and Hermione, especially Hermione most of the time, and it drives me up a wall that they end up together. But most of it is Heidi's protective of those she cares about, and Hermione is one of her best friends. Seeing how Ron treats those he calls his best friends just gets right under her skin in a way few things can. Not to say that they don't have their moments of being civil to each other, because they do. They do have moments where if Ron does something right or, good or, has something smart or clever to say, Heidi will acknowledge that. She tries her best to play nice. But the vast majority of the time, it's better if they keep their distance from each other, because she has no problem calling him out on his crap. He has no problem snarking and snapping at her. It's a very volatile relationship that only has a few cool moments. And there's not a lot that can change it. That's just how Heidi is and how she's always going to be. When I started Heidi, I was just playing around. I wanted to see what I could do with my own character within the world. And she just became something so much more than I ever imagined she could be. I love taking each of the events within the books and futzing with things so they can work with Heidi, or changing them entirely to fit another character. Some things didn't always work out, but the ones that did made for one of the best adventures I've ever written. I had so much fun writing Heidi. I had a lot of stress writing Heidi. I had a lot of anxiety writing Heidi. But I had fun most of all, and that's what matters. Even though her book series is finished, Heidi still has more to come. She has those 19 years between the final battle and the epilogue of the book, and a lot of things happen in there. There's a lot to tell and so many stories that I cannot wait to share with you guys. And that is our alternate universe changes for Heidi Lily Potter. Let me know down in the comments below if you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite change was. If you think other things should have been changed. If you want to, let me know what you think of the rift between Heidi and Ron. I understand not a lot of people like it, but Heidi is just very protective of her brother and her friend, and a lot of what Ron does infuriates her, and I'm not going to change that. But I welcome hearing your opinion. I'm always open to hearing people's opinions. As always, all of my social media handles will be down in the description below, along with my blog if you want to read the post that goes along with this video. Don't forget to hit that like button if you did enjoy the video. I love knowing you guys appreciate my content, and I hope you're learning along with me. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. I love expanding the universe I've created for myself and welcoming more people into it. If you have subscribed but you haven't yet, make sure you turn on that notification bell, setting your options for your notifications to all, not just for me, but for everyone you follow, so you always get a notification whenever we upload a new video. And I will see you guys on Saturday with our next character breakdown.